the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Like, sure, it's cool when Purdue hits threes. I can get behind that. Sure, it's cool when they block shots. But this particular style of Purdue ball is just like, it's the meme of like, this is brilliant, but I like this. This is brilliant, but I liked it more when Travion Williams was at center.
Mm.
Sue me, I just did. It was more up my personal alley of how I like to watch basketball.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Will, bubble bump. Which school is less on the bubble this week than they were a week ago?
I think we got a very obvious answer here. It's got to be South Carolina. They were 17-3 prior to beating Tennessee on Tuesday. And, you know, truly like the first truly bad shooting night Tennessee's had since Maui. So, you know, who knows if that's repeatable or not. But with South Carolina, you know, they had the wins. And I think, you know, Lamont was upset about not being ranked, which is, you can kind of, you know, give or take that in my opinion. But the fact of the matter was they didn't really have the signature win. Like, yeah, beating Kentucky at home is good, but the metrics don't like this Kentucky as much as the voters like this Kentucky. You know, beating Mississippi State at home, good win, but you didn't prove it away from home yet. Like, their best non-home win was either Virginia Tech or Grand Canyon. So to get that big signature road win, to really prove your resume a bit further, like, you can make a real argument. They're probably like, what, 80% or greater to make the NCAA tournament, if not higher than that. I mean, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a pretty frisky 8-9 seed when it's all said and done. I wouldn't want to draw them. They play very hard, very well coached defensively on the whole, I think.
What's the biggest difference between them a year ago to now?
They got rid of G.G. Jackson. I think that is your easy call. No, it's that, and the spacing is a lot better. Like, yeah, they had some non-shooting fives they would run out against Tennessee, but having BJ Mack on that roster is so huge. Like, there's not, like, it's deceptive because of the way basketball is played now, but there really aren't that many ground and pound dudes that will pop out and take 5 threes a game. In the SEC, it's pretty much just him and Janai Broome. And Janai Broome is one of the very best players in America. So you don't really get this skill set very often. And I think he's opening up a lot more things for them. Like, you go look back at the box score, Tennessee held Michi Johnson down very well. I mean, he was held pointless until the final, I think, 12 minutes of that game. And, you know, they had a couple role players go off, but the reason they won that was BJ Mack. BJ Mack kept finding his matchups, kept getting down low, kept getting fouled. That to me is the key for them going forward. Of if they're going to make a little March run or stay in this SEC title race, he's going to have to keep playing like that. And he's been stepping it up against top competition, which has been nice to see.
Is Lamont, like, do you think he's a rising star? Do you think he's at this job, like, he'll be someone who's targeted for a bigger one? Or do you think he should stay here for a little bit? Like, based on, because he was it's kind of like one of those where it's like, are you sure you want to leave chat now? Like, maybe get a little bit more experience for a couple more years, and he took this job because it's like South Carolina is not an easy job historically.
No. Well, that's why I would get out. I mean, it's not an easy job.
Look at Dennis Gates this year.
Yeah. You gotta, I think it's the same as Dusty for me a little bit at FAU of, like, he's going to be fine this year. He'll get a job if he wants it. But in Pat Kelsey at Charleston too, you kind of have to strike when the iron is hot because you don't know how hot the iron is going to be in a year or two. And so could it be that he makes South Carolina into like a yearly top 25 team? Sure. Like Lamont, I was a little surprised at how quickly national media gave up on him, because it's the same pattern as it was at Chattanooga. It took him a year and a half to get things going there too. Like, his first year, they were god awful. They went 3-15 in the SoCon. They looked hopeless. Yeah. And then by midway through year 3, they were cooking. Like, they took off in year 3 and never really looked back. They were easily the best team his final year there. And it was like clear to me, like, oh, he's following that same plan here. I mean, I didn't think they would finish last this year. I definitely didn't expect this, but I thought they'd be more competitive. If you're a year ahead of schedule like this, at a job that doesn't attract much NIL money or constant fan attention outside of when you are really good, you kind of got to jump. And it's not going to be pretty if he does, but, like, I mean, so think about this. There's going to be a job or several that opens in the Midwest this year. Lamont is from Findlay, Ohio, played at Worcester, coached his first 20 years of college basketball in the Midwest somewhere. Is that your next Ohio State coach, for example? Is that it'd be wild, but could that be your next DePaul coach or something like that?
Stay away. No, if it's between South Carolina. Yeah. Although we will talk about them in a second.
You're going to have a lot of jobs like that open in the Midwest of like, could Lamont potentially, I'm just like spitballing here, like it would be wild if he did this, but like if Clemson opened, Clemson has more resources. Like, sorry, they do. Like, would you take that? Or if Otzelberger left Iowa State, would you go to Iowa State? He's going to have options, I think, and it's going to depend. Like everything in this coaching search cycle upcoming, it's going to depend on what Louisville does because they are the hammer that sets all the dominoes in motion. But once those dominoes are set, we're going to get a really clear picture of A, will he leave? And B, is it worth it to leave?
Maybe another one, dark horse, like stick around, just Texas. Maybe you have that one circled.
He'd be a little fish out of water there, I think, because that is now technically going to be leaving one SEC job for another.
Yeah.
But like, I'm scanning the program ratings list here on KenPom. I'm just thinking of some options here. Like West Virginia is going to be open. Lamont's not a bad option there. What if Penny leaves Memphis because they're not doing so hot right now?
Look, everyone has their issues with the Rice basketball Owls. Will Warren, who amongst us has not taken the Rice Owls?
I've lost to food in my life a few times. I haven't lost to Rice specifically, but I've had some bad experiences with food before. I sympathize with the Memphis Tigers and that one account on Twitter who is like really obnoxious about them.
I feel like you're responsible for this because we lead a show 2 weeks ago about Memphis and how legit this is, and then they proceed to go on a losing streak.
Please recall that I pointed out on that show they were playing with their food a lot, and that they needed to shape up or ship out on that front to really become contenders. I was optimistic on the whole, but I did point out they've been doing a little too much. They had a little too much dip on the chip. They've been humbled, and now we got to see where they go from there.
Absolutely. Well, this is something that I've just been thinking about, like, because DePaul is open, right? And you're seeing a lot of names about DePaul. It's something that we'll always see the end of time.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.